It's time for a review on 1983, back when fantasy animated films were in their heyday. Fire and Ice, from a famous animated director. He was a veteran already in the genre. He's the one who actually directed the Lord of the Rings adaptation in 1978 animated. Amazing job on those films, including the Fritz the Cat Creator and Wizards 1977. It was it was just an amazing collaboration between not only him but the famous fantasy illustrator Frank Franzetta. And if you don't know him, you don't know anything about comic books. If you own 100 comic books, there's a guarantee that you at least have a few Frank Franzetta works of fantasy in there. Guaranteed. And then they got the writers Jerry Conway and Roy Thomas, who they always collaborated with each other for awesome Conan narrations. They do a lot better with the Conan comic books than they do with the... They also worked on the Conan the Destroyer. And Roy Thomas is a legend. He's the one who took over as first editor of Marvel after Stan Lee stepped down. He's in the comic book Hall of Fame. But on to the movie and the plot. This one, typical sword and sorcery, and after the opening narration, if you just see the trailer, you pretty much see the whole movie, minus the action and a lot of... What they did is rotoscoping. That's what he did for all his other animated films, where they filmed live action, and they did traces over it and added their own artistic look to it. And it's not like Frank Franzetta did every little piece of artwork in the whole movie. There was a lot of artists collaborating on the background, and just awesome scenery throughout. There's monsters and creatures that keep you interested. But the plot is, after the opening narration, it's about a nefarious pair of sorcerers, more like just one evil queen named Juliana, and they're like, she bore a son, but they don't tell you who the father is, and she tutored him in the black arts, and once he became an expert on it, she reached her ambitions of taking over the world, and they became experts on controlling elements. And basically Nekron, her son, this is him, he just looks like the dead corpse version of Michael Jackson, mixed with Chop Top from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 sequel. And he basically, in the opening scene, they invade they force all of humanity down south towards the equator, and they build a fortress around this hot lava to protect them from the ice glaciers that he's using and controlling with his mind to invade the south. And he basically just chills the rest of the movie. He's coming down off of his black magic buzz on his throne. And what do? They do another cliche storyline of capturing the princess of them, and then that's the rest of it. It's just action of this He-Man, this weaker version of He-Man look-alike right there, mixed with the most likable character, the barbarian type who helps out to save Tigra. And anything else you could talk about is just a complete giveaway, because nothing else furthers the plot. Basically, after they invade them, they send their pair of messengers to send them basically a surrender plea, and basically the king 300s the serpents who look are half reptiles, but they call them subhuman. They kind of look like mutant reptiles or maybe primitive humans. Then they fly on pterodactyls. There's no real dragons or any original monsters. It's just like a bunch taken from different ages in history and molded into their own little fantasy world. But it's just a solid watch, only like an hour and 15 minutes, and then that half of that is the credits, and then in the opening credits and the ending credits. So it's really a quick watch, and you don't even have to pay attention in the middle because it's all just a bunch of action filler. That pretty much sums that up. But now I'm going to talk about the ending. If you haven't seen it, you could go and check it out on YouTube. The full-length movie's on there. I'm going to talk about the ending for people that have seen the ending. So they end up slaying Nekron with his axe. I forget who the main guy is. I mean, this guy. They were going to tie it in so that he was his father, but I guess that was too confusing for the plot, for an animated plot, so they just kept it more basic and simple. And after the king ends up releasing lava on top of the whole glaciers and melting it down, and you're like, why didn't he do that in the first place? I guess Tigra was out there, but who the hell knows? I don't know, this is getting too long. I mean, if I said make me a fantasy animated film, I'd give it a B-, and they made me this, I'd say give it a B-. Not any better. Pretty basic. Still considered a classic. And you just gotta love animated films for that time if you just love that type of world and going inside that type of world. But getting a basic plot is what to expect. So this was JBM from VillainRadio. Click on the channel for more horror, sci-fi, fantasy, and comic book videos. I'm out. Thanks for watching.